Welcome to Learn channel. Alright, hello everyone, my name is Hendrik Prasetyo and this time I will continue my tutorial about how to make a scoreboard system in Unity game engine. This is a second part of the video, so if you didn't watch the first part yet, then please click this link to go watch them. Oh, by the way, this is my Patreon page, my Patreon campaign, and if you wanna become my patron, then go ahead, click that become a patron button. And yeah, alright, so last time we have created our scoreboard, a script with a save and load function on it, which is very good, but currently they only can print the score into the console view, just like this. So if we go to the Unity and play the game, hit P, they will print all of the score available in the PlayerPrefs. Now we are going to make the score to show on the game view here. Okay, so let's get started. First thing first, we're gonna need to create some UI element which will be used for saving a score later on. So let's create an image here. Let's hit on the game object on the menu bar and then select UI and then select image. A new canvas and a new event system game object will be created. And as long as the image, of course. Now we need to set the UI to our need. I'm not going to explain how the UI system works because this is not a tutorial about it. Okay, after that, we will also need two input fields which will be used to input our name and our score. So right click on your image here and select UI and then select input field. Name it to your need. I will name this name input field, and then here the placeholder is enter name, and then size it to your need. And don't forget about the second input field. So I'll just duplicate this input field, hit Ctrl D to duplicate, and then I will name this score input field, and then the placeholder, of course, enter score. And the second input field will be an integer content type. So select the content type into integer number and set the position to your need. And after that, we also gonna need one button that will call a function in a script that will save our score. So right click on the image here, select UI and then select button. Name it to your need. I will name this save button and then set the label to save score. Yeah, we now finished the UI. Now we need to modify our script so that we can save our scores through a UI within a game view. So open Scoreboard Script. Okay, now we need to create a variable of input field which will reference the input field object or component on the scene. So let's create a public variable here, public input field. I will name this input field. I will name this input name, and then of course the input score. Okay, now you will notice that input field, the type or namespace input field could not be found. Are you missing a using directive or an assembly reference? Okay, that because input field is available in the Unity engine.ui, so we need to add that namespace using Unity engine.ui. There we go. Now there's no error. For more organized script, I will add a header here. Header, and then I will name this save panel. This will also create a bold label on our inspector view. Now we need to create a function that will be called when a button in the scene is pressed, i.e. button event listener. Alright, so create public void. I will name this save score now. What we're going to do here is we're just gonna call a static method from a class scoreboard which is save score, and then we're gonna passing some argument into it, which is the value of the input field. So I will call save score and passing the value input name dot value, no I mean text, yeah, text, and then input score dot text. Okay, now you will notice that there is an error. Argument 2 cannot convert from a string into init because we need an integer for this second argument. So we need to convert a string into an integer. To do that, we will call a static method which is a integer dot parse. There we go, we convert our string into an integer number. Okay, now we finish with the script. What we need to do next is set up the scoreboard component and the save score button. So open Unity and select our score manager. Here, we need to reference all the corresponding object in the scene. So drag and drop input field into the input name and the input field score into the input score. And then select the button, the save score button. We need to add an event listener into this on-click event. So add this plus button and drag and drop our score manager object into this slot and select the function that we will call, which is scoreboard.saveScoreNow. Okay, now we finish it. We just need to check it out now. So go ahead, play the game and then test the function. I will hit save score, and then what if I hit P on the keyboard, which is the button to print the score into console view. Hit P, and our new score is just added into the player props. What about if I add more? Save score, clear the console view, and then hit P. Yeah, our new score, which is cool player, has just been added into the player props, and that's very cool. Now, what we need to do next is creating a UI for our score view, so it can be viewed within the game view through Unity UI. And because this is a score list, I mean there will be multiple score, so we will be using a scroll view component. Right click on the game object canvas and then select UI and then select scroll view. Set it to your need. We are not gonna need the horizontal scroll bar, so I will just delete it. Now, we need to create our score UI. So right click on the game object content here, and then select UI, and then select image. This will be our score element. Position it into the top of this element. And then, now we need to add two text objects inside the image. So right click in here, and then select UI, and then select text. I will name this name text, and I will position this to here, just like that. And then I'm gonna duplicate this text, and this gonna be our score. Okay, now we need to create this UI to be more expandable, I mean more responsive. So I will add a component named layout component to the score UI. and then check the preferred height. We'll set this to 30 maybe, and set this height into 30 as well. Yeah. Damn, that's so hard, man. There we go. We also gonna need content size filter to our root container. So add a component called content size filter, and then set the vertical fit into preferred size. Now we also gonna need to add a vertical layout group to our root container. Add a component, vertical layout group. There we go. That way the container will automatically expand based on the child object inside it. And our score UI will not be overlapped each other when there is multiple child on the container. Like this. Now, we need to move our score UI to outside of the container and set it into inactive. This will be our score UI prefab that we're gonna duplicate through a script. But before we do that, we need to add a button that will call a function of a script. Okay, so now we have done with the UI. Let's jump into the script. Here we need to add some variable which will reference our UI object, just like before. This variable will reference into our score UI object, and this variable will reference into our container object, and this two text variable will reference into the text from the score UI. And then we need to add show score function, which will be called when we hit show score on the game. This function will be an enumerator because we need to do some yield functions. So create a new enumerator. I will call this show score. You will notice that using the generic type of enumerator require one type arguments. We need to add a system.collection namespace to this script because we're gonna use enumerator from that namespace. Just like that. Continue the script. First thing first, we will destroy all of the child object from the score root or the container root. To do that, we will gonna use a while loop. While there is a child inside score root, we're gonna destroy and then yield. That way this runtime will stop here, and then the while will be keep scrolling. Okay, after that we need to retrieve our score. I will store my score with this variable list player score. I will name it player score is equal to get score. And then again we will use a loop for this because there is multiple score on this list. Now I will use for each score in the player score. First, I'm going to assign the name and the score into the text component from the UI score UI. So text name dot text will be score dot player name. I mean player name, not player score. Sorry. And then the text score dot text will be score dot player score. And after that, we will instantiate our prefab, but we also gonna need to store them into a variable. So I will use a local variable here. Oops, what is this? Yeah, we cannot implicitly convert type integer into a string, so we need to convert this to string just by calling method toString, just like that. And then we need to create a local variable type game object. I will name this instantiate score is equal to, we will spawn a new prefab, a new game object, instantiate or duplicate a prefab or a game object. And the game object will be score object, which is here. and then after we spawn it, we're gonna set it into active. So instantiated score dot set active true. Then we will move this score to our root container. Okay. Now, because this is an enumerator, the button will not be able to call this method. Because of it, we need to make a void method and call this enumerator from there. So I will make a public void here. I will call this showScore, and then call my co-showScore from this. To call a enumerator, we need to start a coroutine. We need to call a start coroutine method. Start coroutine co-showScore, just like that. Now we finish the script. What we need to do is just set up the component referencing the object in the scene. Okay, let's do that. Select the score manager and then drag and drop the score object into this variable score root, or the content object to the score root, and then text name, the name text into here, and the score text into here. And we need to call the method from this showScore button. So hit plus on this onClick event, and then drag and drop score manager object into this slot. Select the function which is scoreboard.showScore, and that's it. Go ahead, play the game, test it. Now hit showScore, and yeah, the score will be displayed on this list. What about if I add more score into the PlayerPrefs and then refresh the score list? Refresh the list, and yeah, I am really cool. Haha. Okay, that's how this score system works. We just use PlayerPrefs to store the score. The PlayerPrefs will store the score and the player name as a string in a single record. Pretty simple, right? But if you want more complex system, like a user system or like a game which will store a lot of data, I will prefer you to not using PlayerPrefs. You can use SQLite to do such a thing, or use MySQL if you want your data to be stored online. Okay, that's it. You can now continue your experiment with PlayerPrefs. Please hit like if you love this tutorial, share this video if you found this useful, and subscribe if you want more videos. And see you later. Sayonara. Bye bye. I will see you on the next video.